Here she's taking pictures, so. I want to try to get it. So we were going to start here, and we got a curveball here. So then we went around talking with some of the other churches, and the Greenpoint Reformed Church agreed to take the program and try to run the program in their place. So the program opened in the Greenpoint Reformed Church November 19th. And we thought it was a really good location. The plan in St. Anthony's was the folks would meet about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. I think it was Greenpoint Avenue. Is that right, Erica? And then they would march down with the volunteers to St. Anthony's Hall, go into St. Anthony's Hall, and then leave early in the morning. So when we looked at the Reformed Church, we said, oh, this is pretty good. It's near Manhattan Avenue. They can gather. They can walk down there and then leave in the morning. And it seemed like a good plan based on what had happened at St. Anthony's. And the other thing that we thought was a good idea was the Greenpoint Reformed Church has an awful lot of activity going on for the poor. Every day there's something going on, there's lots of activity. We said, oh, gee, that must be nice. We have nine guys, they have food pantries, they have soup kitchens, they have, maybe it'll be really nice and whatever. So the program began there. What became apparent was it was a bad location because the guys got confused. They would get invited to have soup in the afternoon, and they would go on the afternoon, and then they would stay on the block, and they wouldn't leave, and they'd come back and forth, and they were on Manhattan Avenue, and back and forth and back and forth. So it created complications. It also turned out that there were some issues because there were long lines for the food pantries and the soup kitchen on Milton Street that had been there for years, that were creating problems with the neighbors. That we were in a position where it was very hard for anyone to say, well, those 9 guys are yours and the other 200 are somebody else's. So it wasn't a good location for those reasons. So that left us with a dilemma.
But isn't there a soup kitchen in this church?
There's
Yes.
1 day a week.
1 day a week.
One day a week.
Yeah,
9 to 12.
Yeah, 1 day a week. So where was it? So it didn't work out. Is that what I said?
Yeah.
Wasn't a good location.
Wasn't a good location. So at that point, we were looking for a new location, and John was nice enough, Father John, to tell us that he had a gap between when his development would happen and when it would not happen. We knew that the city could make this happen, but given what had happened with the Reformed Church that was different than St. Anthony's, we felt like to protect ourselves and to create a tighter program that we didn't want people congregating near the site, and we didn't want people walking to the site. So we turned to the city councilman and the city, and we asked him to lobby, and they developed a commitment and a funding source for a dedicated van service, so that the 9 people who come here every night are picked up in a van at Goldrick Park, brought here, and the van picks them up in the morning at 5:45 a.m. and brings them back to Goldrick Park. And that's the only way you can get into this facility. You have to get on the van, and you've got to get back in the van. So our thought there was, okay, this takes out the issues we were challenged with, which is the congregating nearby and the walking up and down of the block. So that's kind of the history of what we learned from the process. I think there's other things we have to explain to you. I did want to take a minute to introduce Chris over here. Chris is from Common Ground. It's important for you folks to know that the city wanted us to work with a professional nonprofit agency that works with the homeless. Common Ground is the city's outreach for homeless in all of Brooklyn, Queens, or New York City. I'm not even sure.
We do Brooklyn and Queens, and then we're part of a consortium.
Okay, so they hire the staff because we now have paid staff. They have the contract with the city. So their contract is with the city. The homeless task force and the church do not have a contract with the city. I've seen a few flyers around here, so just so everybody gets clear, the contract the city doesn't contract with informal entities. It contracts with non-profit organizations. So common ground, Chris, if you could just take a minute or two and describe your staffing and, whatever you want to add to the pickup, drop-off conversation, just to fill in the information, and then we'll move on to the next part of it, and then
So
then
my
we go
name's
Q&A.
Chris Cavallari, I'm the